We're on the end of this section, and we'll be finishing this section and beginning another section tonight. So in a period of transition in the themes of this book. So we're looking at the value of different things, or so we're looking at right now the value of submission to the king, which in our history has not been popular thought. But as we look at the idea, that was a joke, like we threw off a king. Anybody? Okay, never mind. Never mind. We worked all day, Josh. We're not ready for that kind of stuff. Anyway, sorry. Some of you are shaking your heads like, it wasn't that funny. All right, so we look at submission to a king. And of course, which is, why would this message be a little bit self-serving? Who's writing this? Solomon, who is? A king. Dun, dun, dun. A little bit self-serving, right? But it is not necessarily something foreign to the Bible. Like, this is not the first time the Bible has talked about this, nor is it the last, and we'll see that. We start off with this wise man again, sort of self-serving comments here by Solomon. Who is like the wise man, and who knows the interpretation of a matter? A man's wisdom illumines him and causes his stern face to beam. How can wisdom be something that is good to look upon? What would cause wisdom to make somebody look better? Has anybody ever in the Bible beamed after being more wise? Who's that? Solomon was wise, right? The only person that was like shiny after a certain experience was like Moses, right? He came down off the mountain all shiny. So in this situation, other than that, how can wisdom make us shine more, be more brilliant in aspect? Helps you avoid traps. All right, let's just compare some things. How about a vulgar person? Somebody who's very vulgar and grotesque in their speech and their demeanor. Is that something you just want to like cuddle up with? Like, I want to be around that person all the time. It just makes me feel good inside. Probably not. But a wise person, there's a benefit in being around a wise person. How many of you have sought wise counsel from anybody? Like, all of us should raise hands, right? So we've sought wise counsel from somebody, and that person shone all the more after having received good counsel from them. So wisdom can make us look better and have that kind of aspect, whereas vulgarity and those kind of things do not. So we see that aspect. So we start off with that, and then he says in verse 2, I say, keep the commandment of the king because of the oath before God. As we said before, looking at these sections of Scripture, we're talking about in the ideal situation. And here we have, even sometimes in the not ideal, that we need to be obedient. But he says, because of the oath, what oath does a king take? Especially in this case, 2 Kings 11:17. Look over there real quickly. 2 Kings 11:17. An oath was taken before God as they stepped into rule. 2 Kings 11:17. Then Jehoiada made a covenant between the Lord and the king and the people that they would be the Lord's people, also between the king and the people. So there was a covenant that was made. So when he mentions this covenant in 2 Kings chapter 11, verse 17, he's mentioning this, keep the commandment because of the oath before God. What did we say again about oaths earlier on in Ecclesiastes? About oaths, especially made before God. You might want to keep them, right? Keep those oaths. And so we obey the commandment of the king. We made that oath before God. And so this is what he's saying. This is what we need to do. Verse 3, don't hurry to leave him. I don't know if they did popularity votes back then, right? But you hear on the radio all the time the popularity of the president and those kind of things waxing and waning. Is politics a very certain and very always, how would you say, very certain thing? Is politics a very certain thing? You can bet money on what's going to happen in politics. No, we can't. Some people did recently, and they lost. But in this case, he said, do not be in a hurry to leave him. Do not join in an evil matter, for he will do whatever he pleases. Who's the he that will do whatever he pleases? King has what? Has all authority. So if you're found, and we've seen this Solomon has seen this firsthand. If we think about the life of David, Solomon has seen this firsthand, where David has even fled for his own life, even after having been king. He's fled from his own life, even after from his own son. He's seen the tumult that's in and what it means to be a king. And so he's speaking from experience when he says, don't be quick to flee or join up band with somebody else and abandon the king. People did that with David, and they regretted it. And so he's saying here, don't be quick to do that. Look over in, while we're talking about this, Romans chapter 13, if you want to write that out to the side as far as what our standard is today. Romans 13, there's a lot here. We don't have time to get into it. I'm just cracking open the door and letting you do more study on your own. But Romans chapter 13, beginning of verse 1, every person is to be in subjection to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those which exist are established by God. And he goes on talking about these things as far as our responsibility to governing authorities. And so it's very similar, some very similar things as we read here in Ecclesiastes chapter 8, very similar principles that also apply to us, even though we're without a king, without a monarch, so to speak. So, and here we have, since the word of king is authoritative, who will say to him, what are you doing? Verse 4, who has authority to call the king on the carpet? The Lord does. And that happened, right? Also, Solomon knows somebody that had his name called, right? You know, what did Nathan do? What's the famous phrase from Nathan to David? Yes. And King James makes that sound awesome. Right? Thou art the man, right? So King James really rocks that one. But when we look at that, so it is possible to call the king out, but it was the Lord that was calling the king out. Nathan was God's messenger, and it was the Lord calling the king out for what he's doing. It's the word that can call the message, that can call the king to court, right? And that is where our authority is. So as you look at here, that's who can say to him, what are you doing? God can. But us, we're below that. Verse 5, he who keeps a royal command experiences no trouble, for a wise heart knows a proper time and procedure. Are there royal commands that are annoying? We don't have royal commands, so to speak. We might have federal ones and state ones, but are there commands that are annoying? He says, he who keeps a royal command experiences no trouble. No trouble from whom? Well, from God. He's saying we need to make sure we've pledged we would be obedient, but also from the king, right? And experiences no trouble. But what is this attached phrase? For a wise heart knows the proper time and procedure. What is that attached phrase? What is that about? Let's put it in a context. Government forms. Okay, yes, sir.
The implication is that if you're subject to the laws, you know what the laws are.
Yes.
You know what the government authority, what his rules and responsibilities are as well. Because we as Christians are bound by God's law, which is superior to man's law. So if man's law is violating God's law, we really don't have much choice as to who we're supposed to obey.
Yes, and that's. Did you hear that? Who's the higher law in the land as far as who we obey? God, right? And we need to make certain that we understand that, and that's why I mentioned earlier, and as far as in an ideal situation, we obey God's law, and we obey man's law, the commandment of man, up until it violates the law of God, in which case, law of God trumps the law of man. And so that's when we part ways. And in this case, a wise heart knows a proper time and procedure. There's a way to walk circumspectly when it comes to the laws of the land. And he's saying we need to make sure a wise person does that, and especially in reacting, how we react to authority, whether good or evil. We need to make sure we're wise in how we do that. And so he continues in verse 6 with this proper time, being submission defended. There's a proper time and procedure for every delight, though a man's trouble is heavy upon him. Even when life is not good, there are still times, there's still a right way to do things. And we see in Ecclesiastes this theme of a proper time and proper procedure. It's a big theme. We kind of had a whole, like half a chapter on that in chapter 3. And so there is this idea that this proper time, wisdom says, is a proper time to do something. And even if we're in the midst of something that's going on that's heavy, we still need to make sure we're doing things in the right way, in the right procedure. Verse 7, if no one knows what will happen, who can tell him when it will happen? And this gets back to what I was talking about earlier as far as uncertainty. We don't know. We need to trust, one, in God, right? Can we trust in God? Yes. Has He given us every reason to trust in Him? Yes, right? As we read here and as we've read in Romans, God has put authorities in place so we need to trust and do. But as far as things being uncertain, can we know what's going to happen? Then we certainly can't know when it's going to happen, right? And again, going back to the uncertainty of what things that are politics. But then in verse 8, he mentions things that are certain. 4 things that are certain. If you want to write that out, 4 things that are certain in verse 8. First thing, no man has authority to restrain the wind or soul/spirit, depending on what your translation has, with the wind. Who has control over the wind? God, right? We try. I think we've brought this up before. He uses the wind as this fleeting image. And we know that very well down here. We experience wind from time to time. He uses wind as this fleeting image. Who can control wind with the wind? Nobody can. And so that is certain. No authority, no one has authority to control the wind other than God. It says, or authority over the day of death. Can you, well, other than short of choosing your own date, short of that, as far as just a natural time of death, does anybody have authority over that? Now, at that time, no. I mean, spiritually, yes, Christ conquered, and that's not what we're really talking about. But as far as us as humans, we have no control over death. We think we do, right? And we sell a lot of products, and there's a big booming medical business trying to cheat death, and we like to think we can, but in the end, do we have authority over death? No, we do not. This tent will wear out, right? And so that's another certainty. And there's no discharge in the time of war. At least in that time, if it was time for war and you were of the fighting age, you're not getting out of it. You're going to battle. There's no discharge in war. So that's kind of like there's things that are certain in death and taxes. And then the fourth one, evil without will not deliver those who practice it. Now we've had a lot of conversations in Ecclesiastes about evil. What's the general gist of evil that we've kind of perused over so far in this book of Ecclesiastes? Well, we see evil here does not conquer, right? Evil eventually will have its day. And we'll see later on, even in this chapter, that sometimes evil appears to be the right way to go. We see people who are evil who are being blessed, and those who are righteous who suffer, right? And that's just kind of the way things are. And we'll see that again in this chapter. But he's saying here, it is certain that evil will not deliver those who practice it. No evil king will be delivered by the evil that he's practicing. And of course, Israel and Judah were not without their history of having evil kings. And those evil kings were deposed and dealt with severally. So those things are certain. So 4 things in verse 8. So the value is submission of providence. This is obviously going to have more weight to it. And he starts off with the phrase that we've seen over and over again. All this I've seen and applied to my mind. I've pondered these things. I've thought about these things. Every deed that has been done, verse 9, under the sun, wherein man has exercised authority over another to his hurt. Do we do that still, or have we evolved beyond that? Do we still exercise authority to the hurt of others? I say we, in general, populous human beings, right? And so, yes, well, we still do. We have not gone beyond that. And so there are those who will exercise authority over others to their hurt. And so he begins talking about the wicked. In verse 10, I've seen the wicked buried, those, speaking of the wicked, those who used to go in and out of the holy place, and they were soon forgotten in the city where they did thus. This too is futility. So the wicked can be buried and forgotten, even though they seemingly were doing some righteous things at one point, they will be forgotten and buried. And because of the sentence against an evil deed is not executed quickly, what happens according to verse 11? The sentence against an evil deed is not executed quickly. As parents, when you're dealing out proper retribution for an act that was done, a sin, so to speak, in the house, if you don't do it right away or you forget about it, that's gone, right? And then next time that it becomes a thinly veiled threat, right? Or not really thinly veiled, it's a threat, but not really serious threat. They're taking it less serious because, well, you said this before, and then you forgot, right? And so in the same situation, we see that even in society today, we see sentences that are not handed out, or a light sentence, if any at all, and they're all the more emboldened to continue to sin. And that's what he's saying here. He said, therefore the hearts of the sons of men whom among them are given fully to do evil. The sentence is light or not even or tarried long, and so they are emboldened to continue to sin. That is something that continues to happen. That is not anything, as he said before, there's nothing new under the sun. That is something that continues to happen today. What's that? Yes, there's a lot. It's very slow. The wheels of justice turn slow, if at all, sometimes. And so that's exactly what he's saying here. Because of that tardiness in justice, then others are more emboldened to continue to do that very thing. In verse 12, what does he say about the continuation of sin? What does he say about the continuation of sin? Is there value in continuing to sin? Verse 12. What's that? Eventually, yes. Eventually you'll be punished. Although a sinner does evil 100 times and may lengthen his life, still I know that it will be well for those who fear God, who fear him openly. And if you put the two beside each other, and we see this, again, a repeating theme in the book of Ecclesiastes, you're doing what's right, and you're struggling against doing, seemingly against the world, trying to do what's right, the right thing, right? I'm doing the right thing, and I'm seemingly being punished. And here's people over here doing the wrong thing, lying, stealing, cheating, avoiding what they're supposed to be doing, avoiding their responsibilities, and I'm doing it to the letter of the law, and I'm the bad guy. Anybody been in that situation? I'm the bad guy. I'm the one that everything is falling down on me. But the writer of Ecclesiastes says, in the end, those who fear God, it's going to be better off for you. What do we have to continually be reminded of here about life? What do we have to continually be reminded of? It's short, right? Even though a week will seem like forever and a Monday an eternity, this life is short. Right? This life is short. We have to keep, especially when we're reading through Ecclesiastes, we have to keep that in perspective, that it's the end game we're working towards, not here. And those who are struggling, spinning their wheels just to live everything to the fullest now, that's all they have. That's all they're living towards. And so it is no doubt that they would scratch and scrape and bite and snarl to get ahead in life if this is all they have. If this is all they got. And so in the end, it's going to be better for us to fear God and fear him openly. I'm not keeping up with my slide like I should. Let me just put these up there. There we go. So delayed retribution. Verse 14, there is futility which is done on the earth. That is, there is a righteous men to whom it happens according to the deeds of the wicked. On the other hand, there are evil men to whom it happens according to the deeds of the righteous. I say this too is futility. This is a backwards law of retribution. What is a law of retribution? An eye for an eye, right? An eye for an eye. Evil for evil, good for good, right? And that's That's why they thought that, if you're getting good stuff, you must be a good person, and if you're getting bad things in your life, you must be a bad person, right? We saw that in Job, we saw it in the Gospels. It's not exactly a correct science. And in this case, we're seeing very clearly we have a righteous person receiving the reward of a guilty or a sinner, and vice versa. And so this is a backwards law of retribution. And again, we saw this theme throughout Ecclesiastes. And so he says in verse 15, so, based on that, I commend pleasure, for there is nothing good for a man under the sun except to eat and to drink and to be merry, and this will stand with him in his toils throughout the days of his life, which God has given him under the sun. What say ye concerning this verse? We're going to go New Age Bible class and say, what do you think about that? Is that extra biblical? Is Solomon teaching anything that is unwise? There's a few verses for you to look at. We've seen this in chapter 2, verse 24, chapter 3, verse 12 and 22, and chapter 5, verse 18. We've talked about this. So I commend pleasure, for there is nothing good for a man under the sun except to eat, drink, and to be merry. Tomorrow he dies. Is that what that sounds like? Epicureanism. Here we go. Hurrah. Let's do this. He's not exactly what he's promoting. He's not promoting the YOLO lifestyle, right? That's not where we're going with this. Remember, we need to keep these things in perspective. He's not going to all of a sudden be talking about, oh, the righteous need to live this way, we need to follow the commands of God, and these are things we'll do, and then all of a sudden, his happy pills kicked in, and hey, let's just do whatever we want to do. That's not what's happening here. So, in the context of a life that there are things that are hard. He's talking about things that are hard to deal with, things that we've been dealing with. The righteous man getting the reward of the sinner, and things of that we've been talking about. And he says, so I commend pleasure in the things that we can enjoy, in the things God has given us to enjoy. And that's what those other verses talk about. The pleasures of this life that we can enjoy, God's given them to us. Enjoy those things. Enjoy those things. Eat and enjoy the food. Enjoy the things that God's and be joyful about it. We've put this idea of merriment into the realm of it's all. Every time you see the word merriment in the Bible, that's bad. No, it's not in this case. No, it's just being joyful about the life that we can enjoy, that God has given us. Because I don't know if you've ever had a bad day and remembered a good day. You been there? And that's what he's saying here. Have some good days so that when you have bad days, you have the good days to kind of fall back on. Make some good memories so that when the bad things happen, you have these to fall back on. So the other verses that talk about that, chapter 2, verse 24, chapter 3, verses 12 and 22, and then chapter 5, verse 18, all deal with that same construct. And all of them talk about the fact that God has given us these things, and we need to enjoy those things. Verse 16, and we're going to start this kind of next, as it concludes this section. When I gave my heart to know wisdom, and to see the task which has been done on the earth, even though I've lost sleep over thinking about it. Verse 16, verse 17. I saw every work of God, and concluded that man cannot discover the work which has been done under the sun. Even though man should seek laboriously, he will not discover. And though the wise man should say, "I know," he cannot discover. What is beyond finding out? According to this passage, what's beyond finding out? All that God has done. We are but ants to his wisdom, right? There's no way you can even explain to an ant the inner workings of your car, for example. And some of you don't even know the inner workings of your car. But in this situation, we can't understand God and all that he's done. They're beyond finding out. If you want to write there, Job 9, verse 10, Romans 11, 33, these Job 9, verse 10, 11, and then Romans 11, 9:33. They both talk about that same kind of concept. There are things that are past finding out. There are things that we will not know, we will not understand. We can guess, and science is doing their best and their worst at guessing at what God has done, and then we're not going to be able to know those things. Even though somebody says, "Hark, I know," we will not know. So that concludes kind of that section, and we begin another section, ignorance of the future, unless you've time traveled, right? So man does not know his standing with God. Let's look at, see how far we can get into this before time escapes us. I'll just go ahead and put these up here because I have a habit of not. And then that'll give you time to, if you're taking notes. So we have this new section. We begin in Ecclesiastes, this new theme. And he starts off again with this kind of reflective idea. I've taken all this into my heart and explain it that the righteous men, wise men, and their deeds are in the hand of God. Man does not know whether it will be love or hatred. Anything awaits him. And so here he says everything is in the palm of God's hand. Everything is in his hand. In relationship to what we receive from God, we cannot know whether it will be love or hatred. And that's what he's saying. Can we know if we would receive the love of God? We even sing songs about that, right? So we can know on this side of things being revealed, that God's love is even in sending his Son. God's love was shown to all men, and his hatred is against the sin and those that practice it. So we can know those things. All right, what is the same for all? When we say in Ecclesiastes, there's a same thing for everybody. What is that? Chapter 9, verse 2. It's the same for all. There's one fate for the righteous, one for the wicked, one for the good, the clean, the unclean, those that offer sacrifice, those that don't offer sacrifice, the good man, the sinner, the swearer, and the one who's afraid to swear, all have what in common? Judgment or death, right? Judgment and death. Sometimes hand in hand. Sort of a worn out sort of idea here, but he says that again here, that all these things will have experienced death. If you want to write some passages out there that, again, correlate with this, Ecclesiastes 2:14 through 16, Ecclesiastes 3:19, Ecclesiastes 5:15, and Ecclesiastes 6:12, all talk about this same kind of concept, that we will all die. We will all go the way of the earth and wear out. And he says, afterwards they go to the dead. All right? The hearts of the men, of sons of men, are full of evil, and insanity is in their hearts and throughout their lives, and then they die. That is such a great picture, Solomon. I love that, right? Everybody's crazy and evil, and then they die, right? That's basically the sum of what he's saying in verse 3. And we can relate to that. So, we've seen that, right? But what he says in verse 4, for whoever is joined with all the living, who's joined with the living? Thus, those who are still alive. Those who are still alive have what, according to verse 4? Hope. Is hope important? Yes, it is, right? It's what rebellions are made of. So hope is very important. And he says, surely a live dog is better than a dead lion. Why is that? What do we think of? So when a Jew thinks of a dog, what are they thinking of? Do Jews have dogs running around their house, a little Pomeranian, kind of running around their house, feeding scraps from the table, sleeping in their bed at night? Do Jews do that? No. Why do Jews not do that? Because they're unclean. Why should we not do that? Because they're unclean. No, so there's a dog. Some of you are snarling at me now. Sorry, I was just making a joke. Okay, so yes, a dog in that time was unclean. They were not as cute and well-bred as they are today. So they were unclean at that time. But a lion was not. Who was called a lion of the tribe of Judah? Jesus. So a lion was something that was noble and proud and, a lot of chutzpah with a lion. But with a dog, not so much, right? Not so much. What is he saying here with this comparison? What is he saying? A dead lion, even though he was a lion, is still a dead lion, right? The live dog still has hope. Not necessarily to turn into a lion, but there's still hope with somebody. So it doesn't matter your status, right? It doesn't matter where you are. Alive is better than anything dead, right? Especially if you don't have your affairs in order. Especially if you don't have things in order. So again, perspective on death. He says, here's some things that the living will know, and then some things that the dead know. For the living know they will die. Do you know that? Okay, yes, mark that off. But the dead do not know anything. If you ask a dead person something, what? Nothing. Because dead men tell no tales, right? They're not going to say anything. I've been waiting all day to say that. So, have they any longer a reward for their memory is forgotten? Unless it's a movie, a show on the AMC, dead or dead, right? They do not come back to life, reanimated or not. In verse 6, indeed their love, their hate, their zeal have already perished. Everything that made them who they were is gone. It's dead, just like that lion. And they will no longer have a share in all that is done under the sun. So again, those things are gone and dead. Dead all over, right? Turn over to 2 Timothy no, we don't. If you want to look at 2 Timothy, look at 2 Timothy chapter 1, verses 9 through 11. What do we have over death that others might not have? Salvation, victory, right? 1 Corinthians chapter 15, and so we have that through Christ. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verses 9 through 11, right out here beside in your notes. So once they're gone, they'll have no share in what's done under the sun. And so again, we go back to this idea that we kind of touched on earlier, beginning of verse 7. So with that in mind, we will all die. The living know they will die. We're all going to die. That's going to happen. Based on that, go then, eat your bread in happiness, and drink your wine with a cheerful heart, for God has already approved your works. Or literally what's being said here is God has been pleased with your works. So in a situation where I have been obedient to God, I can go and eat my bread and drink my oinos and do these things, and I know God's pleased with me. Is that a good situation to be in? That's a great situation to be in. If you want to write out here beside this passage, Genesis chapter 27, verse 28, and 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 20, wine and bread together was a common thing they ate together. That was just, they went together like bread and butter, they had bread and wine, all right? So that's just, when he's saying that, he's basically saying you have what you need. Eat what you need, eat your fill in enjoyment, because God has already approved your works, or literally God has been pleased with what you have done. So when I'm in a right relationship with God, my conscience says I'm in a good situation. As far as I know, I'm in a good situation with God. I have what is needed for me to live and sustain my life. That is a good place to be in. Solomon in all his glory said that is a good place to be. And that is something that we can be working toward, right? That is not something that we are without. Yes, sir? Apparently it's not vanity, right? It's not vanity. And he goes on to say, let your clothes be white all the time, and let not oil be lacking on your head. This is not suggesting a robe change for us, right? We can look at it in several different ways. One, in the context of the time it was written, white robes were robes for festivities, right? So those are happy robes, right? We do happy things in white robes. It was a white robe that the priests wore in service to God. It was still that, even a saintly kind of thing as well. We see white robes in the book of Revelation as well, right? Those who have been saved, they're wearing white robes. And those white robes were washed in what? The blood of Christ. Not Clorox, right? They were washed in the blood of Christ. So, again, so you can see that analogy there. Let not oil be lacking on your head. Not a call for doTERRA, but what we're talking about here is a situation where there was an anointment. They used those again in festivities. When you're around a lot of people, you would use perfumed oil because they didn't have Axe, right? So again, going back to, they didn't have body sprays, but that's what they used. And so again, being festive, being happy. Don't go around walking like you're walking in the doldrums. Enjoy the life that God has given you, okay? And enjoy that. So he goes on to say, verse 9, enjoy life with the woman whom you love, which he reversed his edict from chapter 7, verse 26. He was rather dull on women in chapter 7, verse 26, but those were not righteous women, right? So those were the ones that would ensnare you and trap you. He says here, enjoy life with the woman whom you love all the days of your fleeting life, which has been given to you under the sun. For this is your reward in life, and in your toil in which you have labored under the sun. And so these are good things. If you want to look right out here, Proverbs chapter 5. Proverbs chapter 5. I guess we can have a few minutes to look over there. It's just a few pages back. Proverbs chapter 5, this is verses 15 through 20. Some of you that have the apps are like, would you please give me the verses so I can get over there? So Proverbs chapter 5, verses 15 through 20. Enjoying the woman of your youth. He writes, drink water from your own cistern and fresh water from your own well. Should your springs be dispersed abroad, streams of water in the streets, let them be yours alone and not for strangers with you. Let your fountain be pleased and rejoice in the wife of your youth. Are we talking about drinking water here? No, we're not. This is an analogy, right? Stay at home, enjoy things at home, right? And so he goes on to talk about the relationship that you have with the woman of your youth. Enjoy that. That's what God has blessed us with. And it should be vice versa. We're not, they both should be mutually respecting and mutually enjoying one another, right? So that's out there. And so in this situation, this is what you should, and this is what he wished for his son. And so that's the beauty of a good relationship. That's what God has blessed for us. When all things are right and they come together in the right combination, that's the beautiness, and that's what we've been blessed with to enjoy this life here. And so can I, as a Christian, enjoy life and be happy? Yes, we can. God has made it. God made the earth. He did not have to make it so pretty, right? I mean, he could have made it very utilitarian and all gray and khaki and that kind of stuff. That would have not been very fun. But he made it beautiful for us to enjoy. And so it should be enjoyed. Everything in its proper context. From food and clothing and Axe body spray and the love of your life should all be enjoyed in their proper context, right? And when those things line up, then we get to live this life, have enjoyment, even though some days are bad, we can make the memories and have the experiences so that we can go through the bad days. Any questions, comments, shout-outs? All right. Thank you very much for your time tonight.